Hello, my name is Sunny Satva. I'm the founder of the Vegan Africa Fund, and today I'm incredibly excited to be hosting this panel of Pan-African and global vegans who are supporting the vegan evolution across Africa. Today, we have some amazing panelist guests working to engage communities in education about veganism. So we're gonna have an amazing panel discussion today, and I would love for us to go and introduce ourselves. And I'm wondering if we can start with Heather, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, your vegan story, and your current activism.
Well, welcome. Thank you very much. Yes, Heather here in Mauritius, and I've been a home vegan for about 6 years now. And so that's mostly vegan. And if we're at a restaurant or a hotel and someone puts a bit of cheese or a bit of milk in my coffee, I'm not an extremist. I just try and go vegan wherever I can without rocking the boat. And I'm so passionate about it that I started doing workshops and presentations at restaurants and hotels, schools. And the response has been phenomenal because I'm presenting things to people that they never knew about a plant-based diet. Things like that vegan blood is 8 times better at suppressing cancer cell growth, that erectile dysfunction goes away, that vegetarian children are often taller, we live longer. So the list goes on, and I'm so excited about it. So I do the workshops live and also online. We do a quiz and we give away prizes, and it's quite fun when you engage people on their phones and they're getting involved with learning and responding and being a part of it. So that's the plant-based side of things. And my dream really is to open up and just to work with restaurants to sort of assess their menus and give them sort of feedback to say, look, I know you think you're vegan friendly, but like a true vegan would not want to eat at your restaurant, and so many waiters don't even know what a vegan is. So I often go to the boss of the restaurant, having already interviewed the waiter, and they're often clueless. So it's so nice to share that knowledge and to give people the taste experience when they realize that plant-based food is not just dreary salad, and they can have just the most delicious things. And I show all the pictures and the recipes of things that they can make. And so, so I'm on this big mission to educate people with the experience to go with it.
Thank you so much, Heather, for that introduction. We'll definitely link our viewers to EcoShe so they can learn more about your activism in the Mauritius restaurant community. And thank you for all that you do.
I am Ngwa Damaris Ngum from the Northwest region of Cameroon. I'm a vegan, climate and gender activist. I am passionate about veganism because I think it is the root cause of, let me say, 90% of our problems. So being in a community where the vegan concept is really strange, I call it strange because from where I am, I think my region, I'm basically alone doing advocacy for now. Yes, I've searched and searched for others doing advocacy. I cannot find, but I found a few vegan people who are vegans for mostly health reasons, and then a few for religious purposes, spiritual purposes. So I have it's very difficult task where I am, but I'm pulling forward. I'm pushing and trying to see what I'm doing. For now, I've been having events in groups. Like 2 months back, I had an event with climate activists in the Northwest region of my country. I was educating them on the effects of the animal industry on the climate. So I'm planning another event in 2 weeks' time. That's with health personnel and health science students on the negative effects of the animal industry on our health. So basically, I'm still doing, let me say, the basics of advocacy, because I have to implant that knowledge in people. It has not been easy. And then I do cooking. I do cooking training, vegan recipes. I educate my community on vegan recipes. But for now, I don't have a restaurant, so I do it at home and on call for now. But I look forward to expanding in that domain.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for all that you're doing as well. I know without the community support, it can be really difficult to engage in vegan activism, which is why having this panel and getting to share some of our strategies and talk about our experiences, I think can be so uplifting for all of us. But for one thing for me, climate activism and veganism, they need to go hand in hand. And just thank you for doing that education with your community on how animal agriculture is impacting the environment, because that's a strong voice that we absolutely need. And now I would love, Nija, if you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your vegan story and your activism with the Blaq Veg Society.
And thanks, VegFest Morocco. I started my vegan journey in 2005, and I didn't know anything about these terms, vegan, vegetarian, or what have you. But I transitioned over a 3-year period thanks to my husband, Gregory Brown, who we co-owned the land of Kush, ancient African civilization in Ethiopia. I'm sure you know. So we're award-winning, based in Baltimore. We have a vegan soul food theme. So vegan is nothing new to Africans. They're just going back to being vegan. They've been vegan. But high cholesterol was my reason for going vegan, and I wanted to improve my health. And bringing Land of Kush to the city of Baltimore basically was to show the community that you can eat healthier cuisine, because we know the top 10 diseases, the killers, about 8 of them are diet-based, right? Mm-hmm. So we just wanted to bring this education into the community, and we did that by co-founding Vegan Soul Fest, one of the largest vegan festivals in Baltimore, along with Maryland Vegan Restaurant Week, which is a way restaurants can add more plant-based options to their menus, and just a host of other community events. So that's what we do out here through the Blaq Veg Society. Yeah.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for everything that you do to engage your community in veganism. We have one more panel member who has joined us, which I'm very excited about. Hello, Satta. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much. My name is Satta Jallah, and I am a creative entrepreneur, holistic wellness coach, and vegan chef. How I came into veganism, it started off early in my career, I guess, when I became certified, because I'm a certified yoga instructor. And once I got certified, I remember during my certification years ago, I think I was listening to a documentary, and there was a Rasta man from Jamaica who was giving his perspective on his his life. And he was like, I can't afford to take another life to sustain my own, and it really hit me because, I'm familiar with Jamaica. I visited a few times, and, where he lived, particularly in Jamaica, it is a very violent community. And, he's like, I can't afford to have, the tables of karma to be turned on me if I decide to take another life to sustain my own. And it just kind of, all the wheels started turning in my mind around that. And fast forward to 2020, I received a fellowship to become a creative community health worker in my community. And that was right at the beginning of the pandemic. And, I'm in lockdown with my children, and, there was nothing to do but just cook. And I happened to start documenting that online on my social media platforms and different things like that. And people were loving the videos, loving how my food looked. And things just began to spiral into blossom, should I say, into something bigger. And 2021, the beginning of 2021, I went to visit my family in West Africa. And, being back home, it dawned on me, I was like, a lot of African food is already plant-based already. A lot of the diet is mainly pescatarian, if you would, or, because a lot of families can't afford sometimes to have, heavy meat, even though they do put a lot of meat in the food. But when I was living, being seeing the people that were in my community, you know, a lot of them were primarily pescatarian, and majority of the traditional food is plant-based. So I was like, I really want to start showing how, especially Liberian food, can be vegan. So I started doing these events throughout the US. When I came back from Liberia, a friend of mine, we had been talking about doing these, you know, small, intimate supper club type of things. I'm also a performing artist. So we started it. We started it at this thing called Intimate Settings. I prepared this wonderful vegan, you know, meal for the patrons that came through, and it was filled with art, music, and we actually hosted it at a yoga studio. So it was interesting to now have all of these components now come together, especially you know, people of color coming together around health, wellness. You know, I mean, it was just, you know, the timing of it was just so perfect.
Wow, that sounds incredibly beautiful and impactful, and such an amazing way to honor your heritage, is actually bringing that Liberian food veganized back to the States.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And for me, it really reminds me of, you know, as we're consuming, if we're consuming suffering, we're repeating the cycle of suffering in our own lives. And when we let that go and choose the more compassionate option, it's almost just like the world is more compassionate. And it's really interesting to me, you know, a lot of people transition to this lifestyle for the health benefits and the health reasons. And then a lot of the rest comes after, the animal advocacy and the environmental advocacy. You know, you realize how much more this can add to your lifestyle.
Yes.
And I think that's a really great way for us to get into one of my first questions, which is very interesting to me, as I've, you know, spent time on mostly in East Africa on the continent, realizing how deeply ingrained a plant-based lifestyle is in a lot of cultural cooking. I want to get you guys' perspective on how Afro-veganism is different than what can be perceived as traditional veganism or Western veganism, and what are some of the challenges and what are some of the exciting upcoming transitions?
Again, in the States, I don't know what's going on in other countries. I do like the fact that veganism is being brought back into Africa. I've been reading a lot of stories around that, because again, it's nothing new. They were eating this way. It's just
Exactly.
that the sad
term is so new.
Right, exactly. But here in the States, depending on your accessibility to certain things and the environment you live in, there's a lot of chain restaurants, lots of them, low cost food. And a lot of times the community, if you have a family of 4, you're looking at affordability to eat. And sometimes when you go to vegan places or buy vegan food, the price point can deter you from actually living the lifestyle. So what we do over here is we bring it back to whole food plant-based products. If you buy grains and beans and those sorts of items in bulk, and you're into the cooking and we teach you how to cook it, you can assess it a lot more easier. Now, for some people don't want to cook. Some people don't want to learn to cook. You know, we live in a fast-paced environment out here in the States. You need everything quick. So we hope to advocate for more cost-effective options in your local corner stores, in your local restaurants. I know SNAP benefits are being offered now to purchase some items, and SNAPs is a supplemental nutrition program out here. So, you know, more of that would allow people to be able to access more of your plant-based items. Fresh produce.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, because it can be so incredibly affordable to eat whole foods plant-based, and then it can be so ridiculously expensive to eat a lot of processed vegan foods. And from my time in Kenya and Ethiopia, I've seen a lot of traditional vegan foods that, you know, aren't even questioned. It's just plant-based, and that's how it is. And I'm wondering, from Mauritius and from Cameroon, you know, how do you know anyone in your community who maybe doesn't call themselves vegan, but does eat a plant-based lifestyle out of tradition?
Yeah, we have a lot of plant-based meals here traditionally, but people people don't want to attach it to the term vegan food. People are scared of attaching this meal to this term. It's a vegan food, but it is a vegan food. Because, for example, I posted something on Facebook 2 days back, and a friend of mine, she's not vegan. I just said, what if your mother-in-law gets into your home and your mother gets into your home? That was the question. And you have one piece of meat. Who will you give it to? That was the question I posted on Facebook. I said, you're not supposed to share the meat. You're not supposed to keep the meat. What will you do? Then a friend of mine came and she posted a comment on that and said, practice eating without meat.
Wow,
you should practice
she's not
eating
even
without
vegan.
meat. She's not even vegan. I was so impressed. I called her later on. That was about 2 days ago. And then I called her yesterday and I asked her, why did she post that comment? She said people have to learn eating without meat. That there are a lot of health challenges and blah, 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 blah. She said a lot of good things. Then I told her that I'll talk with her. So I have an appointment with her tomorrow, Sunday.
Nice.
I really want to know where she's coming from. Why that comment? It was really strange because I've been with her all this while and I've never looked at her like somebody who reasons or who thinks like that. So from your question, there are a lot of vegan food, vegan meal, especially in my community. As Madame Naji said from Black Veg Society, Africans just need to go back to who they were. They were vegans from the beginning. They just need someone to remind them, because the issue of not being vegan, from what I realized doing advocacy, is not because there is no vegan food, it's ignorance.
Yes.
Most of the times, if you talk with the community, if you discuss with people, if you meet them, sometimes one-on-one, you realize people are just ignorant. People are really ignorant. So I feel encouraged because by the time the feedback I get from my seminars, the feedback I get from my colleagues, it's positive. It's just people are really ignorant. So everything is available. We have everything, especially in Cameroon. We have all the vegetables, all the fruits, everything is available. We have some meals some of you have never heard of. They are available here and they can be transformed to plant-based food. Like now I'm working on a research anyway, it's still a proposal with the Good Food Institute. We have something here like, we call it traditionally egusi. I tried something one time and it came out in the form of a pudding. And I prepared a meal and invited some friends over. When they came to the house, they ate and they asked me, what was this? I said, it's egusi. They said they use egusi to prepare soup. I said, yes, I experimented on it. And I saw that it could come out with plant-based meat.
Ooh,
and it was so delicious. So we just need to be innovative. We just need to educate the community. We just need to be positive because a lot of people are sick. Firstly, a lot of people are traumatized and depressed because of meat eating, but because of ignorance too, they just stay silent and are dying silently. So for now, I will say everything is available in my community. And I visited Kenya at one point in time too, as you said. I realized they really have vegan food there. Much. It's available in Kenya. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to bounce off of that because one of my biggest shocks in Kenya is I'll be, out with my friends and say, are you vegan? Just meeting somebody, who's young and they're my age and they're saying, oh, I'm not vegan, but my grandmother's vegan or my great-grandmother's vegan. And this has happened so many times to the point where I'm realizing the older generation, there's a lot of people who are plant-based, who are eating traditionally because that's how their parents and their grandparents ate. And it's really only in the past, 75, 50 years that the meat and dairy has become so prevalent. And Heather, I'm just wondering from you, because you were in Zimbabwe, now you're in Mauritius, how is the traditional food? Is it very vegan accessible?
Thank you. Well, my favorite meal from Zimbabwe and one that I miss so much is called Sadza and Moriwo. And it's this relish, it's leafy greens, relish with tomato and onion. And it's eaten with, the sadza is like a maize pulp. It's like a very thick porridge. And you always have to wash your hands and then you roll the maize into little balls and then you eat it with this relish. And we grew up on that, 39 years in Zimbabwe, we loved that. And with the political instability and things getting more desperate in Zimbabwe, and obviously a lot more poverty, people just by default have had to transition off of meat and onto beans and things. So they might in their minds think, oh, this is a poor man's diet, because it's an illusion, and it's just marketing that the rich men eat meat, and they almost feel like, gosh, I'm missing out on something, but they don't realize, they haven't had the education that the latest science and the biology is actually the caveman, the way we're built. We are herbivores, and we're not supposed to eat anything. I think a herbivore is 97% plant-based. So even cattle, apes, they might eat a few termites and worms and things like when they're foraging, but it's 97%, which means that eating meat once a month, you could still be a herbivore. And I think if everyone got that little, maybe did eat meat once a month, it would just scratch an itch that might take a few generations to pass by. But yeah, so that's one thing in Zimbabwe. Another problem being in Zim and Mauritius is that a lot of the foods it's crazy. They're actually imported, all the nuts, the seeds, and a lot of things are not fresh. And so in Zimbabwe, as a vegan, you get the nuts, they're so expensive and they're rancid and old. And when I came to Mauritius, foods are mostly, there's a lot more Indian and Hindu influence in Mauritius, and a lot more vegetarian. So I was so excited in the supermarkets to see a whole alley of lentils and mung beans and just all these wonderful, wonderful things. So we're a little bit more forward in Mauritius, but still nowhere where the UK and Australia and America is. You still, when you go to a restaurant, the best you'll get is a margarita pizza as a vegetarian, or a Napolitana pasta, or a Greek salad without the feta. Like, that is the three staple things you get offered. And I always just want to shoot myself and say, I'm not a rabbit. I don't want to eat salads. I want a really delicious meal. So a lot of education has to happen, but there's no reason why Africa can't grow all of its plant-based food. Not one single reason.
Oh, absolutely. I truly am with you there. The vegan evolution has to be locally sourced for it to be sustainable, for it to be, regenerative, and for it to be thriving. And I feel like we've kind of started to deconstruct this concept of that veganism is expensive. That's a very, big misconception. But another misconception that I've seen a lot is that meat is sort of a status symbol. And a lot of people believe that you need to have meat on your plate to show signs of affluence, to show signs of success or wealth. And that psychological kind of shift that we need to make is very difficult as vegan activists. And I'm just wondering to get your guys' perspective, if you have any tips or any, have you had any positive interactions that have helped deconstruct that a little bit?
I read a lot about that, the status, and you still have some people with that mindset in the States, but I think here I've seen more about, it's all about nutrition. You can't possibly get all your nutrition from a whole food plant-based diet. It has to come from meat. But when you look at, I just finished taking Dr. Colin Campbell's nutrition studies course, and, it dispels all those myths through research and studies that a whole food plant-based diet can give you everything you need, with the exception of some fortification with the B12, but you can get everything that you need from a whole food plant-based diet. This idea that you must consume meat to get protein, there's an overconsumption of protein, and you're only going to get fiber from your whole food plant-based diet. You're not going to get that in animal products, and you need that to, obviously clean yourself out. I suffered many years of constipation and having to learn that later on in life. Had I known that earlier on about the inflammatory effects of milk, because I had acne as a teenager all over my face, neck and back and chest, I was enlightened by this information. So now I really got to go out and share that. So the status of being meat, having meat, feeling rich, You know, I don't believe that. Here, I hear more, it's nutrients. You have to have it when you're pregnant. Your children have to have meat when, you know, they're growing up, but it's not true. And that's what we need to educate.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. Go ahead, Heather.
Something came to mind. I met a very wise man in Zimbabwe once, and because everywhere I go, like we do as vegans, we're always so proud to share our story. And I remember him saying that, you know, in the African tradition, or the way he was brought up, he said that true richness was in your health and not in your wealth. And wow, I actually got goosebumps. And I thought, if we can get that quotation, just get it going viral around Africa to say, you know, that, yeah, sure, you can be rich, but richness can come with heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and that's not true richness. And so first, I love that quote.
Health is wealth.
Yeah, let me say something in regards to that. It's I think that concept applies here too. Like for us here, when we have funerals, if I have to bury my mother or my father or a brother or a sister, I have to slaughter a cow. And goats and chicken and pigs. And if I don't do that, I'm considered poor and broke. That's how the society terms you. So sometimes you go to funerals, it's like it's a competition. A woman has about 3 children and she dies, and those 3 children, they make sure they have to slaughter 3 cows to prove a point to the society that they are rich, or it's a symbol of money. And secondly, our traditional leaders here encourage that a lot, because sometimes you really don't intend to do it, but the older generation and the traditional leaders keep putting you pressure. They keep saying that if you don't do this, it means you did not love your mom. If you don't do this, you didn't love your family, you blah, blah. So you see some people are working under pressure to do these things to prove a point, which is really a misconception. Because I've told, like, my family, I keep telling them all the time, if you die and expect me to kill a cow, don't die, just make sure you don't die, because I'm not going to do that. Just stay forever. Just stay forever. And when I die, don't kill a cow as well. I don't expect it from you. Yes, that's what I keep telling them. And I keep educating everybody in my seminars, and I tell them, we spend time pleasing society, we spend time pleasing our leaders, we spend time pleasing the government or pleasing people to come and eat, and destroying your health on a daily basis, and we destroy our environment on a daily basis. And we keep complaining about one problem or the other, and we are the cause. So I tell them in every seminar, it's not every instruction you must follow. You must not follow every instruction. Sometimes you have to stand your grounds, especially when you know you're doing something which is just and right. That's what I keep telling them. So it's not only in the US per se, it's everywhere. Eating much meat, a plate filled with chicken and turkey and symbol of richness. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Yeah.
Just regarding the ceremonies in Africa, back in Zimbabwe, we were staying in this very prestigious golf estate, and our neighbor had a goat tied up to a pillar, and it was making a lot of noise, and people were saying, why have you got a goat in your house? And they said, oh, there's some ceremony was happening and they were going to slaughter the goat. And everybody got so upset in the community, and they actually tried to force them to take the goat away. And being a vegan, I had to question everyone. I said, look, at least in the African tradition, they're willing to slaughter the animal themselves, because every single person living in this golf estate is eating meat on a daily basis that you're buying from the supermarket that somebody else is slaughtering. So if you're not willing, I would respect someone way more if they caught their own fish, killed their own chicken, and then decided to eat it, because I think statistically 50% of people would rather go vegetarian than kill their own food. So that is one thing that's a bit more real about the meat eaters in Africa, is that they, even though it's not the right idea, at least they're doing it themselves.
like when you look at tradition and a lot of it, we really do have to question, why are we doing this? Why are we continuing this cycle? And does this cycle of suffering ultimately hurt us or help us? But that's a really interesting story. Thank you for sharing that, Heather.
I love that. Question is, use your common sense.
Yes, exactly. And you know, one kind of beautiful, I guess, concept in the, you know, Afro-veganism culture is that you really need to know what your ancestors were eating to connect with your ancestors, to have that spiritual link and connection. And as we're finding that more ancestral foods were plant-based and that veganism was such a large part of human history, I think that's really helping a lot of people ground spiritually in those connections. And I'm wondering if any of you have had those kinds of experiences.
Well, I'm half Latino from the Puerto Rican side, so the rice and beans. A bit. I mean, I love rice and beans, all different. And we make a jollof rice here at the land of Kush. So that, you know, I love with the spices and the black beans, and also the yams. The plantains or the tostones. I mean, plantains on one side, tostones on the other. So, and a big avocado fan. So, I'm one that I have a couple of worlds that I could pull and draw into when it comes to food. And you know, my favorite also is Ethiopian food because it's so cultural and it's so plant-based. So I love the injera bread and eating it with the collard greens and the lentil beans, the split peas. All of that, you know, that's just my favorite. So I definitely respect the food from my ancestors and enjoy it just the same as their spirit runs through me.
That's very beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I think I can connect what I eat from my ancestors here is a kind of meal. It comes from cocoyam, and it's sauce prepared with palm oil. And it was really plant-based because despite the fact that some animal flesh was added to it, originally this meal was eaten with mushrooms. Mushrooms and garden eggs. Yeah. So traditionally, if you go back and you see how it was prepared, but recently it has changed. Most people eat it with cow meat, but originally that meal was eaten with mushroom.
That sounds so good. I want to have this meal. I am a huge mycophile. I'm a huge fan of mushrooms and fungi in every sense of the word. I believe that mushrooms are going to eat plastic on this earth. We're going to be able to make leather alternatives, so much food and medicine and really healing I see coming from mushrooms. And I think that's an awesome opportunity for us to kind of go into, you know, how in your vegan lifestyle have you related to mushrooms? And I'm just very curious from each of you if that's been a major part or if it came into your life along with veganism, because I didn't grow up eating mushrooms until I went vegan.
I love mushrooms before I became vegan. And I still love mushrooms today. Saute, fried, all different type of mushrooms. So I am a mushroom fan. As a matter of fact, Eat the Change. I'm not sure if you know ETC Impact. Eat the Change are making these mushroom jerkies and all different type of flavors. And yeah, I I love it.
Sounds good.
Yes. So mushrooms, absolutely 100% for me. Give me the mushrooms.
Heard of a thing called biltong?
No,
have we lost somebody? Have we lost somebody?
I think Damaris it looks like her camera went out. Okay, she's still here.
Hello. Oh yes, so biltong is dried meat, a bit like jerky, and any Zimbabwean or South African, they've grown up on this dry salted meat, and it is really delicious. And I must say, when my husband gave up meat, the only thing he kept eating was biltong. He said, I just can't. For one more year, he ate biltong, and then he gave it up. But so I bought a dehydrator here, and I've started making biltong from mushrooms, and they are delicious. It really is good. So I've tried aubergine and mushrooms, and they just taste so much better. So I would encourage, if anybody's wanting to get into making food alternatives in Africa, if you can get some industrial dehydrators and start making biltong and selling them, it's a real win. That another just point on mushrooms, and I used to love mushrooms a lot. I ate a lot of them, but I did I don't eat so much of them anymore because I had an Ayurvedic test done by an Ayurvedic doctor, and they were telling me that mushrooms are they neutral prana. So prana is this subtle life force energy that you get from food. And you have sattvic foods, which are very, very high in prana, but then you've got tamasic and rajasic foods that either make you restless or angry or aggressive. And mushrooms and aubergine, they're just in this neutral zone. So then I was like, oh, they're not like super on the top list. So they're in my naughty box now, my mushrooms.
And what are your sattvic foods of choice?
So anything that's just brightly colored, if you go into the fresh fruit and vegetable section, it's all your vegetables, your grains, your legumes, nuts, seeds. And I think someone said to me, like, what do you actually eat? I said, well, when you walk into a grocery store, anything that doesn't have eyes, then or a heartbeat, everything else, that's what I eat. So as you go along thinking, did this have something with eyes? Did it have a soul? Did it have a heartbeat? You know, did it bleed? So it's quite it's an easy way to skim past people like feeding through the aisles in the grocery store.
Oh, I love that. And it reminds me so much of one of my favorite like vegan just tips and tricks, which is really eat the rainbow. You know, you hear people say that all the time. You have to eat the rainbow. Your plate should look like every single color. You should be eating reds and blues and greens and yellows to get all of the essential amino acids. Because when we're talking about getting all of our essential nutrients, and people are, just like Nigel said, people are hyper focused on getting enough protein. What's really most important isn't necessarily the protein you're taking in, but are you getting all of your amino acids? And the best way to gauge that is really look at your plate. Is every single color in the rainbow on it? And if it is, you're good.
Right.
Yeah, so colorful, so appetizing, so nice.
Exactly.
So delicious.
Next panel questions, which is, you know, we have this global vegan community that is in a really unique position. Our voices are being amplified as more and more people are adopting vegan lifestyles. But as we're here with VegFest Morocco, I believe it's so important that we utilize veganism in building up decolonial practices. And I'm wondering if any of you have experiences with, you know, using veganism as a tool for decolonization.
Yes, I have actually. Again, you know, being that I'm in a part of an artist community, you know, some of these narratives come up. I actually I was one of the collaborating artists of a project, a community project, and they had also asked me to cater the rehearsal dinner. And I remember I brought, I think it was fried oyster mushrooms. I kind of fried it as if you would do fried chicken or catfish, you know, Southern catfish. And I remember one of the sisters, she was like, oh, is this that fake catfish or something like that? Like she was kind of like scoffing at my, at what I brought. And, you know, and I had to correct her. And when we were going around and talking about, you know, what we're about and things like that, I was like, you know, the reason why I'm so passionate about vegan lifestyle and promoting that in the community is because I feel like we need to begin to initiate the conversation around decolonizing our plate, you know, and even, you know, recent a documentary on Netflix called High on the Hog, where this journalist, he goes through the whole African diaspora and some of these popular American dishes and how it kind of traveled from the continent of Africa here to the States. And, you know, I remember one of the episodes, I think they were in South Carolina, and they were saying, you know, we didn't eat pork every single day. We would only roast the pork during Christmas dinner, you know? So it was one time a year that they would now, you know what I mean, indulge in this piece of meat. And even in Africa, if they do consume meat, it's a more communal thing. It's shared with the community as opposed to one household consuming so much meat, you know, within that one household. So we started having these conversations, and I'm like, you know, this is why I'm passionate about what we do. What I do is to begin to open that dialogue, and where better than to do it at an open table where we're all sitting and eating and communing with each other, right? To have these conversations.
Yeah, I'm glad that Satta brought that up, because when you think of, we've got Thanksgiving coming up next month, right? And a lot of the dishes, you know, whether it's your collard greens or your yams or whatever, normally there's some type of meat product or animal stock in it. So Land of Kush, you know, we have our greens seasoned well. You don't need the turkey or the ham or whatever, you know, the animal product is that you put in there. So we bring that to family, you know, and that's what we promote. You don't need to put the mushroom, which is made of gelatin, on top of the yams. Or if you want to do that, hey, here's some dandies, you know, make it vegan. So just educating family on that meat does not have to be in every single item that you make. You know, a lot of times, even with the string beans, you know, I have to say, like, I can't even eat the string beans because you got turkey and ham and meat or butter and all of this. You know, we can make it without the butter or put some olive oil or whatever. So just keeping that mindset that we don't need to put meat or meat products in all of these foods that we make. It's unnecessary. It'll taste good if it's seasoned and made well.
Absolutely. And it's so funny, isn't it, how people are seasoning their meat with plants to make it taste better.
Exactly.
And that, you know, it really makes me think of my most successful vegan activism, which has always been when I bring some amazing food. And I think that's why I respect you so much as you're running these restaurants, these plant-based eateries, because you have to feed people well and show them vegan food is delicious. You know, vegan food can be so much more than you thought it was. And I'm just kind of wondering, have you guys, you know, blown anyone's mind where they had one perception of veganism is just, you know, you're eating grass and all you eat is a salad, and then being able to really open them up and expose them to the diversity of the plant-based diet?
All the time, every day. Every day we have, like, people think, you know, when we opened up Land of Kush, it was Land of Kush vegetarian cuisine, and people question that, you know, because we were from the pure vegetarian concept. You know, pure vegetarian still exists. It's not everybody doesn't, you know, all vegetarians don't eat eggs and dairy, but when people would come in and just try, we allow people to sample whatever it is, the mac and cheese, we make our own cheese, whatever it was that you wanted to sample, you can sample, and it would blow their mind away. Like, you know, I can eat like this all the time if I knew how to make this type of food. So a lot of our customers aren't vegan. They just like the way the food tastes. So yes.
And we've also, there's two dishes that we blow people away with, and one is the EcoShe lasagna, because lasagna traditionally is made with a lot of cheese and white sauce, and we make it with cashew nuts and vegan cheese. And I tell you, it is so delicious. People don't even know it's not like traditional lasagna. And then for dessert, we do a sweet potato chocolate mousse, which is so good, and it's so good. And we use algarve instead of honey, and cacao, sweet potatoes, and it's so delicious. It's so good that I tell my children they can eat as much of it as they want. It's not even a junk food, even though it tastes like junk food.
Yeah, same here. So again, African food, especially people within the African community, they're just used to seeing the meat. So I learned how to prepare. Recently, I was featured on a local cooking show, and I made vegan oxtail with Liberian palm butter. And I had invited my friend who is a Liberian DJ, because it was a food and music type of show, and she was like, I'm not even gonna front. I was kind of like, I'm like, how is this gonna taste? I was nervous because she was like, you're my friend and I love you, and you know what I mean. But I hold no punches when it comes to being honest about my food. And she was like, this is really good, you know what I mean. And another brother, he was like, oh my God, like one of the most favorite things when I was eating meat was oxtail, and the fact that now there's a veganized version that I can indulge in. He was excited about that too. So yeah.
Oxtail, I like that.
Oxtail, that's so amazing. Yeah, I feel like the vegan evolution will succeed when vegan food tastes twice as good and it costs half as much as non-vegan food. And we're on our way. And I'm wondering for all of you, we have this awesome panel here, and a lot of us are diasporists, right? The global community that feels a deep call to Mother Africa, that wants to help uplift the sustainable development of the continent. And I'm really curious to know, how do you feel like the diasporist community can support the vegan evolution in different parts of Africa? And, what are we doing well and what can be improved upon?
Well, I feel some of the observations I had a chance to make when I was home recently was that I feel there just needs to be more conversation, around it, of course. But how do we now engage that conversation? How do we intentionally bring that conversation about? I feel it could be helpful if a lot of people from the diaspora visit Africa, and we can begin to have these cross-cultural events to be able to now have these conversations, right? Because I know so many people here in the States, people of color here in the States are excited about the idea of traveling back to Africa, especially after the year of the return that Ghana had in 2020. A lot of people now, either showing on their social media platforms their trips to the motherland and things like that. I think that is helpful, but being intentional about creating cross-cultural events where we can now have these dialogues and conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. Picking back off of that, definitely taking that trip over to the motherland helps. It'll help, and having these platforms like what you're doing here. Technology has helped us to reach many across seas, and being cross-promotional. A lot of times, in the States, I don't know if this is in Africa, if this is the mindset. In the States, it's a competitive mindset. And a lot of the stuff I work on is to bridge the gap. So there is no competitive mindset. We're all in the movement together. Each one teach one. Land of Kush can't possibly feed 600,000 people in the city of Baltimore. So yeah, open up more vegan restaurants, and let's build events around that, like Maryland Vegan Restaurant Week, so we can promote all of those events. We're all in this together.
Absolutely.
But I agree with you on the education is really important, and we've developed a course, and I'm actually interviewing now translators who can do it in the local mother language, Creole, and in French. And it's a really big 100-page, beautifully put together presentation with a 100-page research document to back it up. And if we did some crowdfunding and people in the diaspora could sponsor someone to come and have the experience and the education, it would be nice with social media to feed back what those events look like, and the feedback that people give to say, well, thank you so much to people back home, or diaspora, thanks for educating me, and knowledge is key. So I think, yeah, definitely education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really absolutely agree. I think uplifting each other, right? The vegan movement needs to be collaborative, it needs to be educational. And I'm truly so grateful for all of your amazing platforms that you have. You know, the Black Veg Society is truly helping people go vegan and as well. I'm so excited to learn more about Land of Kush. And Heather, with EcoShe, your YouTube videos and your explaining a plant-based lifestyle is absolutely inspiring. I know, especially in Mauritius, it's a growing movement and it needs more spokespeople for it. And Satta, everything that you've introduced from your wellness perspective, I truly believe we have to bridge together the wellness communities and the vegan communities, because ultimately the most successful movements are the ones that are collaborative and have this energy coming in. And one reason why we're doing VegFest Morocco and why festivals are so important is we have to have some conduits for this diffusion of culture, to learn more about other cultures, to understand and to bring these ideas and these beautiful stories and histories together. So I just want to thank you all so much for being here, for doing that. And you know, everything that we're working to do with the Vegan Africa Fund is to support this sustainable, regenerative future in Africa, focusing on plant-based entrepreneurs and absolutely working to amplify their efforts. And just in this last few minutes, I would love for us to go around, just give your final thoughts, any, you know, absolutely self-promotion, let people know where they can find you, how that they can get involved and engaged in your communities, because you all have some amazing energy and I'm excited to keep building on this after this call. And let's start with Heather. Thank you.
Yes. So our whole vision is on our website, EcoShe.Earth, which is ECO, Eco, and then She, SHE. And our dream is to actually build a vegan resort here in Mauritius. And I'm actually hotel hunting at the moment. It's more exciting than house hunting. And we're hoping to actually fund it with just a small group of like-minded people, like activists, wellness workers, and we'll own the hotel, we'll actually live in a part of it and then open the rest for people to come and have this vegan experience, this holiday. I am looking for a vegan chef, because as much as I work well here with people who are trying their best with vegan food, I think I'm going to have to import someone with really high skills to run the food in the resort. So hopefully we'll have you and our listeners sign up to be one of our, you know, either visitors or investors. So thank you for your support, and lovely to be with you all. And Sunny, well done again. I know this is our second actual meeting and interaction, and I love what you're doing. So keep it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much for sharing about EcoShe.Earth and being here and sharing your perspective from Zimbabwe, from Mauritius, and being on the panel. And Naja, I'm wondering if you can go next.
Yes, thank you for having me again, Sunny, and VegFest for Morocco. If you're in the States and near Baltimore, Maryland, please check out the Land of Kush. You can go to our website, landofkush, KUSH.com, to find more about the vegan restaurant. As for the Black Veg Society, you can go to BlaqVegSociety.org. There's tons of information on there, resources and information, webinars that we've been doing on food as medicine. So you can do that whenever you feel like doing that. Just go to the website, BlaqVegSociety.org. Naja Speaks is my platform where I interview amazing advocates and activists. So I'd love to interview some of the guests out there that are doing amazing things in their communities. You can go to Naja Speaks, NAIJHA Speaks.com. Thanks again for having me.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Naja. And Damaris, it looks like you're back. We are just wrapping up the panel right now. So I would love if you could give us any last words or thoughts from Cameroon, and just also feel free to self-promote anything that you want to share with our audience that you want to send them to.
Anyway, sorry, I had a power failure. That's why I was off for a while. To wrap up, I will say thanks to everybody who is part of this panel, and I'll encourage every one of this panel to support vegan African activists because their challenges, as you say, are different. We might have vegan meals and a vegan food and a lot of plant-based products available, but the level of ignorance is different. And to bring in the concept, considering our traditions here, the way we look at religion here, all those are very vital challenges to us. So I would like to, what I always do is I like to network and partner with other activists who are experienced and who have a long history of doing activism, because it's really, I don't know, it's difficult. I don't know if you understand me, but the challenges are enormous. Sometimes some people look at you like you're a ritualist or you're doing something which is really far-fetched. It cannot exist. So to wrap up, I'll just encourage every other activist to support African activists in however way they can, small or big. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for, offering your perspective. And it's true, the global vegan community, we're at a point in the diaspora where I feel like there is a certain responsibility that we have to uplift the vegans on the African continent. African vegan activists are holding down the future. Africa is the fastest growing continent on the planet. And we have to make sure that as it develops, the development is sustainable. It is rooted in regenerative practices. So thank you so much for that. And Satta, can you give us your final thoughts, introduce us to your websites where we can find you and hear more from you?
Absolutely. So my platform that a lot of you can see some of the vegan stuff that I'm doing activism wise in my community is on Instagram. I am Blaq Vegan Yogini on Instagram. That's BLAQ Vegan Yogini on Instagram. And then I'm actually launching my new website this weekend. It is SoPlentifulFoods.com, SoPlentifulFoods.com. And there you'll be able to see my catering services and upcoming events that I will be hosting, because again, I am all about creating events where we can have these conversations, and who doesn't love to gather around food, music, and good conversation. So yeah.
I love it. Gathering food, music, good vibes, and vegans and future vegans.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for this incredible panel for VegFest Morocco, which is serving this year as a VegFest Africa of sorts. And for all of you to support the future of veganism on the continent, feel welcome to check out veganafricafund.com. We've launched the VAF Impact cryptocurrency to support an African vegan future. Holding a stake in the Vegan Africa Fund allows us to invest in sustainable businesses as well as businesses that profit with impact. There is so much work to be done, but with all of this amazing energy, this amazing, transformative belief in the wellness that is provided by a plant-based lifestyle, I truly believe that we can look forward to a more healthy, healing world. And thank you all for being here, bringing together this perspective. It was so much fun.